Hey, welcome into Shop Fix, a community joined together for the love of woodworking. In this episode, we're going to go over the types of wood carving tools with Phil Lowe from the Furniture Institute of Massachusetts. Shop Fix, it's for the love of woodworking.
Okay, so what I'd like to do now is show you some of the tools involved in carving. If you actually bought a whole set of carving tools, you might end up spending, thousands of dollars, and you'd almost end up with 1,000 tools. And the reason for that is a lot of the tools are very specific to very specific jobs. For instance, furniture carving tools are certainly different than carving life-size figures. So what you see here on the bench is a variety of tools that I've collected over the years. And what I'd like to do first is just show you what the tools are. And if we start off, usually these tools are numbered. They're 1 through 25, 26, somewhere around there. And the number ones are actually tools that are basically straight across this way. And if you look at this particular tool, it has a bevel on both sides, whereas this one here actually has a single bevel on one side. And you can use, these are used for different purposes. But you'll also notice that these are of different width. We also have some really narrow ones, which are quite narrow. And on some of these tool handles, you'll find that they actually have a number on them. Let me see if I can grab one of these newer tools. So if you look at these numbers on the handle, the number 7 determines the curvature of the blade, and the number 20 determines the width of the blade. So with that being said, you'll notice that these 3 tools here range in size from about 3/8 of an inch to an inch to about 1 1/8 inches, somewhere around there. The next series of tools would be a number 2. So this is a number 212, so it indicates that the 2 is actually the curvature and the 12 is the width. And then we have a really small, probably about 1/8 inch wide, number 2 as well. So as we go through these different sizes, you'll notice that with each number, we'll jump up to a number 3 here, you'll notice that the curvature on these start to increase. So the 3s are going to have a little bit more. And if we go over to, let's say, a number 5, we'll pull this one out. The 3 and the 5, you'll notice that the curvature increases as the numbers go up. So if I jump up to like a number 7, which this one here is quite wide, this is a 725, you'll see the difference in the curvature of the blade. So if we're trying to do different designs and so forth, we can incorporate some of these curves in order to create the shapes of the curves that we're trying to develop. So I could certainly use something like this, a tool like this would cut a certain shape in one direction, and then use another tool in the opposite direction to get a softer curve. So there's a number of other types of tools that are involved in here as well. So if we work our way up, the number 9s, which are, these, the 8s and the 9s, let's see, this is an 8. Let's see, this is a number 8. Here's a number 9 here. The number 8 is almost just shy of a half circle. And the number 9 is just about a half circle. If you look at it directly in from the front, the distance from here to here is about whatever width this is, just say it's a 1/2 inch. The distance from up here down to the edge is about 1/4 of an inch. And with the 8, it's a little bit less than that. So, you have to get used to the numbers and the widths that you're going to use in order to, try to create the work that you're doing. Now, there's a few other tools here that are sort of specialty tools. The specialty tools are, tools like you see here. Now, what this is, these are what they call straight gouges, which are, perfectly straight in this direction. And then also you have these bent gouges. And these bent gouges are actually used to, go down inside of, a hollow in order to, to be able to take the material away, as opposed to a straight one. Whereas if I tried to cut into a hollow, what happens is the edge becomes engaged, the back of the chisel starts to hit and actually makes it jump, so you don't get a smooth cut. So, these are very specific. This happens to be a V tool, which is actually, at a couple of angles that you might have here. And then we have a couple of bent gouges. This is a 7 and an 8. And again, the 7 is a little shallower and the 8 is a little deeper. Now, there's also a couple of other different types of tools, which are what we call spoon gouges. Now, if you look at this particular one here, the spoon, actually, if you look at it, it's almost like a spoon. You're going to eat with it or something like that. So it's a real radical bend right on the end of the tool, as opposed to a long bend that has got a really long, that's why they call them a long bend. It's got a long bend over the length of it. So, these are for, getting down inside of really acute areas, like that ball and claw foot that I was working on when we first started out. So if I was to use this tool, down inside of here, what that allows me to do is make a nice sweeping cut, right down from this web right into the ankle. Whereas if I tried to use a straight gouge, what would happen is it would hit here and it would start to jump and make it for a much more difficult cut. Now, a couple other tools that we have here. We have spoon skews, which are an interesting tool. If we can get a close-up of these two right here, you'll notice that we have a left and a right spoon skew. So what this means is that it's a spoon with an angle on the end. So a skew chisel, which if we looked at a straight skew, it's basically the same, but it has the same angle involved. But in this situation, it has the spoon, so that you can, again, reach down into deep places when you're doing really a deep carving. Now, one of the other specialty tools that we have is what we call a fishtail. And you can see here that I have a number 1 fishtail and a number 7 fishtail. And these fishtails, come out and they spread out on the ends. And this actually works quite well when you have to work in against some of the designs that you're working for, or to get in an acute corner or something like that. Now, another couple of real peculiar tools this is what they call a dog leg. As you can see, it's the bevel is on the top here, and it's got a really acute angle, relatively flat, and this is to work in against the surface of some work, so you can help to flatten out the background. Now, another interesting tool here is what we call a back bent gouge. Now, the difference between a back bend and a spoon is, if we have a spoon gouge, you'll notice if I flip this over, there's a bevel on the underside, and it's flat on the top, where the back bent, which we call this one, is flat on the underside and has the bevel on the top. And this is actually used to go over the top of things in order to lift the handle up. A lot of times, if we're making cuts across the surface of a piece, the handle can become involved in the work that we're doing. So the idea of having that handle angled up in this direction as we're making our cuts, we don't have any difficulty with the handle getting in the way. Okay, we got a couple other funny ones here as well. This is what they call a winged V-tool. Or I should probably point out a V-tool to begin with. A V-tool, first of all, is a tool that's in the shape of a V. And as you can see, we have different widths, as well as different heights as well. We also have various angles. You'll notice that the angle on this particular one is a little bit, more vertical than the one alongside of it. So, with that, we have the winged V tool, which actually, instead of this surface being straight, it actually has a curvature to it. So that's a winged V tool. Then we also have what they call a macaroni tool, which is sort of strange. It's got a flat bottom with vertical sides, so they're very at right angles to one another. And this is for cleaning up along your design so that you can get a vertically straight wall and then also a good flat background. As you can see, there's a variety of different tools